I tried beating the split mod in Terraria, but every mob we kill drops completely random items. A slime can drop anything from a garbage starter weapon all the way up to endgame weapons and armor that can make us totally overpowered. Will I be able to defeat the final boss of the split mod? Well, let's find out. I started off by talking to a guide and delving headfirst into fighting the very first slime I saw. It ended up dropping me a blowpipe, which I was extremely disappointed by, but instead of crying all day, I ventured to the right side of the world and fought more slimes. Once again, these guys dropped absolutely garbage loot, and as I continued further to the right side of the world, I stumbled upon a jungle. I spent loads of time going weaponless, but during this time, I did manage to get myself a set of pixie wings, and I ventured down into the jungle caverns. I looted some chests and got absolutely obliterated by all of the hornets around me, forcing me to teleport back to spawn. I decided that I'm just gonna go and try to kill worms above ground in order to get better armor and weapons, and using this cheesy tactic, I actually managed to get myself some pretty decent loot. I got myself another set of wings, which I didn't really need. I got myself a repeater called the Bad Forecast, which summons a Nimbus cloud under our arrow, and I also got a yo-yo called the Stella Fortuna. This was really overpowered, and since I had pretty decent weapons, I chucked some bombs at the demon orbs in order to summon in the Eater of Worlds. This is my go-to, as every single segment drops an item, so we're almost guaranteed to get something good. Using the Stella Fortuna, we absolutely demolished the Eater of Worlds. After picking up all of the loot I wanted, I left the corruption with a solar chest plate and came back to spawn to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. Of course, since our weapons were overpowered, we absolutely demolished this boss as well, and after this, I spoke to this very ominous looking NPC that I pressed challenge on, which summoned in a boss from the split mod called the Menace. This was an angry rain cloud, very similar to what the Bad Forecast shot, which was a weapon that we had, and this was a very fun boss fight. I really loved the effects on it, but we took it out using the reflex bow, and next I went over to fight Skeletron. We took him out using the Bad Forecast, and after this, I went into the caverns in search for more mobs to kill so I can get myself a better pickaxe. To make matters worse, we were stumbling upon dead-end caverns, which would force us to mine, and mining with the copper pickaxe is really not the way to go. During this time, I got myself some boss summons, and I teleported back home. I chopped down some trees, and decided to go over to the jungle in search for life crystals and more mobs to kill. I was using the viperfish as my main weapon just so we could test out different weapons, and it also lit up the way so I would never have to hold torches in my inventory. I decided to go down to Skeletron's dungeon, as I know the mob spawn rates there are extremely high, and following the strategy, I got absolutely nothing good except for some more boss summons. Furious as ever, I went back over to the corruption and summoned in the Eater of Worlds once more. Using the Stella Fortuna, we took him out once again, and I still did not have a pickaxe, but upon browsing my inventory, I did manage to find a very good weapon called the solstice. This, I will later come to find, is an endgame sword, and it's overpowered for a reason because the boss you need to kill to obtain this is absolutely brutal. I decided to go and farm out more bosses, and upon coming back to spawn, I summoned in and fought the spirit. This was a very fun boss fight, and the attacks are very creative, but we took the spirit out, and then I started work on a elevator using my copper pickaxe. Oh, poor boyo, life just couldn't get any worse. I resorted to crafting myself a nightmare pickaxe just so we can get a slight boost in mining speed. I went to go pick up a meteor that had dropped in the corruption, and then I crafted myself another boss summon. I wanted to defeat and challenge as many bosses as I could because I really wanted to experience what the spirit mod had in store for us. While digging my elevator, I managed to get more life crystals, and inevitably we finished it and reached the underworld. After this, I went over to the jungle in order to max out all of my HP before fighting the wall of flesh, and during this time, I actually managed to get myself a mithril drill, which was far better than mining with a nightmare pickaxe. In the jungle, I also challenged and killed the queen bee, and along with this, I found a very suspicious looking spirit NPC. I talked to her, but I got friend zoned and I decided to leave. Upon coming back to spawn, I was blessed with a goblin army, which would hopefully let us get a little bit more loot. We got a really cool sword called the Laser Brand and also the Rod of Discord, so that was pretty neat. But one thing that saved my life was getting the drill containment unit. So I equipped that, made my way down to the underworld, and since I couldn't find a guide voodoo demon, I instead decided to use a summon in my inventory that spawned in 10 wall of fleshes. Well, I went on to do that, and using the Stella Fortuna and this other very cool bow called the Overflow that was extremely rapid fire, we managed to take out all of the wall of fleshes challenges, but that apparently didn't trigger hard mode, so regardless of this, we still had to go find a guide voodoo demon. Well, I went out of my way to grind for a guide voodoo doll regardless. I chucked it into the lava, summoned in the wall of flesh, and killed it, putting us in hard mode. As soon as I came to spawn, it was nighttime, so I decided to challenge the destroyer, and using the overpowered weapons in our arsenal, we absolutely destroyed the destroyer, and then I went to go farm for souls of night. Once we had enough souls of night, I went over to the underground hallowed biome and farmed out souls of light. I also got myself a mechanical eye by chance so we could summon the twins without actually crafting it, and I also got myself enough bones so we can later craft the summon for Skeletron Prime. I made my way over to this frozen ship and summoned in a boss called the One Shot. I'm pretty sure we were supposed to fight this in pre-hard mode. This was a very cool boss, but it didn't last too long against us. As soon as it turned to nighttime, I used the Eclipse, which was this melee spinning weapon, to absolutely demolish the twins, and later I used a turret from the game Portal and the Overflow Bow to take out Skeletron Prime. The jungle now grows restless. Do you know what else grows restless? Boio, seeing that you still have not subscribed to the YouTube channel. I highly recommend you subscribe if you want to be alive tomorrow. After this, in spawn, I built myself a bunch of NPC houses, and then I ventured to a very special underground biome that is unique to the split mod. Within this biome, I was trying to find a boss summon, but apparently that wasn't where you were supposed to look for it, and I was unlucky and I didn't know what I was doing, so I did not find it whatsoever, which prompted me to go into the jungle and find Plantera's bulb. This frankly wasn't any easier, but I did manage to find it, and I dug out a tiny arena, and using the overpowered weapons in my inventory, we absolutely demolished her. After this, I went into Golem's temple, using the drill containment unit, picked up his altar, and brought it back to spawn. I got myself the Sinister Candle, which is a summon for one of the bosses that I was previously looking for, so I went down to the underworld and summoned in the Paraffin. This was a pretty epic boss fight, and it was very fun to do, but we took this underworld butterfly lady out, and upon coming back to spawn, I proceeded to fight the destroyer once more, and then we farmed out Golem in order to summon the lunatic cultist. Before fighting the lunatic cultist and starting the celestial pillars event, I decided to challenge Duke Fishron, not realizing that if you don't summon him near the ocean, he becomes enraged. So I got absolutely wiped out by Duke Fishron, but since we were now closer to spawn, this gave me another chance to rethink and fight a boss before the lunatic cultist that is actually from the spirit mod. I went over to the desert, talked to this strange creature, and summoned in a boss called Mirage. This turned the entire sky around us dark, and I did get a little bit spooked, I'm not gonna lie. But we took out this boss quite easily, and then I went over to the right ocean to challenge Duke Fishron. We took him out, and then I went back to the jungle in order to fight Plantera so I can get another jungle key. I managed to get myself a yo-yo called the Collapse, which I'm pretty sure is the best yo-yo in the split mod. Don't quote me on that, but it summoned in this black hole that would pull enemies and items towards you. It just looked really cool, and it was a weapon that I used all the way up until endgame. Anyways, upon coming back to spawn, I made myself a boss summon for the insurgent, and we fought him and took him out. This was a more challenging boss fight than all the previous ones, and he did genuinely get me down pretty low, so props to him for that. We were finally ready to go fight the lunatic cultist, so I went over there and absolutely demolished him. Before fighting the moonlord, I did want to fight the final boss of the split mod, which is named Seth. This required us to get a very special trophy, so I spent the rest of my days grinding it. We had to go back to fight the underworld butterfly lady because she dropped us a special cup that I ended up deleting. Apparently, it doesn't drop a second time, so I had to go to the desert, find another lady that spawned in. Goddamn, how many females am I gonna have to talk to today? And I had to buy the troublesome vessel from her. Once I had it, all I had to do was favorite it, and this gave me the ability to summon in Seth. This boss fight was absolutely hectic. He started shooting swords at us, started blasting us with hands, and further in the boss fight, just when I thought I was about to take him out, he had an attack that absolutely one-shotted us. I died to Seth countless times. I genuinely think this boss is harder than Moonlord, but after a couple times of memorizing all of his attacks, I managed to get his patterns down and we took him out. Instead of taking out all of the pillars, I just decided to use an insta summon which dropped from the mobs. So we summoned in Moonlord this way, took out both of his hands, took out his eye, and once his core was exposed, I absolutely blasted his core using the solstice, and we took out the Moonlord. After this, I also used the medallion to summon in absolutely every single boss in the game, and with all the effects on screen, this looked absolutely chaotic and I did not know what was going on. Be sure to check out another video like this on screen. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. This has been Boio. Peace out.